Hey there! Today we're going to talk about how transactions work on Conflux Network, basically how they go from being created to getting fully confirmed on the blockchain. This is really important stuff to know whether you're a developer or just using Conflux, because it helps you understand what's happening when you send transactions and why they might take time to confirm. Think of it as a single instruction composed by an external actor with a Conflux account. You sign it with your private key to prove it's really you, and it can do different things, like sending CFX, transferring tokens, deploying a smart contract, or calling a function on an existing contract. It's the only way to make changes or store data on the blockchain. Now let's talk about what goes into a transaction, the fields that make it work. First up is who's sending it. This is shown by the from field, which tells the network who's responsible for the transaction and who's going to pay the fees. Then we have what the transaction is actually going to do. The to field tells us who's receiving it. Could be another user or a smart contract that can execute some logic. The value field shows how much native token will be sent, and the data field contains the instructions for interacting with smart contracts. Next is the fee information, which is really important because it's what motivates miners to include your transaction in a block. You've got the gas field for both spaces, plus an extra storage limit field in core space. The gas price is like a tip you're willing to pay to miners. Higher gas price means your transaction gets priority. For security, there are fields that make sure everything is legit. The chain ID prevents your transaction from running on the wrong blockchain. The nonce makes sure transactions happen in the right order, and the epochHeight sets an expiration time based on the epoch number. Now let's talk about what happens after you create a transaction. Once you have all the information ready and the transaction is signed, here's how it actually moves through the Conflux network. So once your transaction is created, it needs to be signed with your private key. After signing, it's encoded into a hex string known as the raw transaction. This hex string is what you actually broadcast to a Conflux node. You send your signed transaction to a Conflux node, usually using an RPC method or through WebSocket. The node checks if your transaction is valid. If it is, it shares it with the rest of the network and gives you back a transaction hash so you can track its progress. At this point, your transaction enters the transaction pool. This is basically a waiting area where all pending transactions sit until a miner picks them up. Miners look at the pool and usually choose transactions with higher gas prices first, since those offer a better reward. When a miner selects your transaction, it gets packed into the newest block being mined. Once the block is successfully mined, it's broadcasted to the rest of the network. Your transaction isn't executed right away. It needs to wait a few epochs, usually about 5, before it's actually processed and executed by the network. After those epochs pass, the transaction is executed. This means the blockchain state is updated and a receipt is generated with all the details, like whether it was successful, how much gas was used, and any events that were triggered. After execution, your transaction needs to be confirmed. This means waiting for enough epochs to pass so that the block containing your transaction is deep enough in the chain, making it very unlikely to be reverted by a chain reorganization. Finally, when the proof of stake chain references the block with your transaction, it's considered finalized. At this point, the transaction can't be reverted. Knowing all these stages is really helpful when you're troubleshooting transaction issues. You can check your transaction hash on Conflux Scan to see exactly what stage it's at and why it might have failed. The whole process shows how Conflux uses both proof of work and proof of stake to ensure everything is secure and efficient. Don't forget to like and follow for more content. Thanks for watching.